Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at Six Strings Nine Lives. So I have a little book that I keep track of ideas for videos, recommendations of albums and bands that you want me to check out, maybe requests for ranking videos, things like that. So I had been shuffling through my book the other day and I'm like, here's an idea that I wrote down, I think probably over 2.5 years ago. Let's revisit this one. So I started going through my collection. And what the premises would be, what I originally wrote down was debut albums from bands that are my favorite from that band. You know, they've never done anything quite like it. They've, of course they've done good albums, bad albums. There's been shit albums, lineup changes, all that stuff, but they've never quite topped their debut. So I think what we're going to do is we'll title this one Greatest Metal Debut Albums, Never to be Topped by the Band Again. And obviously this is my perspective, but please, this is a fun one. Jump in the comments, let me know. You might agree with some of these. You might say, dude, you were out to lunch on some of these. But it's always fun to interact with you guys. And especially, some of your favorite bands. And I didn't really realize, that I had this many in my collection where the debut was my favorite album of that band. So I got, making my list and my list got to 18, which I wanted to keep my list to stuff that I had a history with, not something that I just discovered a year ago, 2 years ago, even 4 years ago. This is all stuff that I have a long history with, lots of 80s stuff, maybe some early 90s stuff, but 18 bands in my collection. There might be a couple of more too that I might have, no, probably I haven't missed any, but they would be newer discoveries. So I stuck to these 18 because like I said, I have a good history with them. And I thought, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to break this into a 3-part video. And to make it fun, so we're going to go part 1, which will be today, and we're going to call that one Closer Than You Think. So today I'm going to show you 6 bands where obviously the debut is my favorite, but there's one that is super close that couldn't, almost knock it off. Like I'm talking one is 1A and one is 1B. And you might be able to guess already if you watch me for any extended period of time. A few bands that I enjoy. So that will be part 1. We'll do that one today. And then part 2, I'm going to title No Brainer. So I will show 6 bands where, to me, it was just boom. I absolutely know that their debut is my favorite. There's not even anything to think about. And what I'll do too is I'm going to show, in that video, we'll show you another album from the band. Maybe just something I want to, maybe I would like you to check out. Maybe something that you've missed. So we'll do that in that one. And then video number 3 is going to be called Timing is Everything. So we're going to show 6 more. And most of these fit perfectly in these categories. They just kind of divided up all by itself type of thing. But timing, maybe a first show. Maybe you were at the right place at the right time. A friend recommended you a band. Maybe like me, somebody made me a mixtape and got me onto a band. I'll get into all those stories as I'm explaining things like that. So let's go. We'll make this into 3 parts and, keep the time down a little bit on the videos. I know it's summertime. People are busy. And if we can keep these down to, 15 minutes or so, maybe this one will be a bit longer because I'm explaining all this stuff. But I thought, how cool is that? 18 bands in my collection where the debut has never been topped. Yeah, sure. It's, there's lots of these bands that have great albums that came close, but in my eyes or your eyes, they've never topped their debut. So let's get started. And remember, this episode or this part 1 will be called Closer Than You Think because these 6 albums where my favorite is the debut. It is so close with the second runner-up, whatever you want to say. I've done a ranking on lots of these bands, so if you want to check those out too, maybe looking at my list, I've ranked about 50% of these. And but let's get started. So my favorite album my favorite album from this band is obviously the debut, but it is Merciful Fate, Melissa. I've done a ranking video on this one, so I kind of, give away my favorite of this. But this is one where you will see the second album as your number one, probably, or this one too. But a lot of Merciful Fate ranking videos and people that I know, those are the top two. But for me, this is 1A, and the next one I'll show you is 1B. It is so close, but I've said in the past in videos that this side A of this album, with Evil, Curse of the Pharaohs, Into the Coven, and At the Sound of the Demon Bell, is one of the best side A's of any album that I own in all of my collection. Of course, fronted by King Diamond, which I'm a huge King Diamond fan too. But yeah, Melissa just edges out the one that is coming next, with some of the finest artwork you will ever see on a metal album. But to me, Melissa is just a little bit better, and taking nothing away from this masterpiece either. So there's the first one. And I didn't throw it out there, but I'm not going to be showing any EPs. These are studio albums only, so we won't be throwing in EPs, because this next band I'm going to show you has a very key EP that is pretty awesome. Probably would rank in my top 3 EPs of all time, but the band I'm talking about and their debut album is still my favorite to this day. I was thinking, though, I was picking these off the shelf and thinking, I'm kind of a completist on this band, but there's a period of this band that honestly I probably could sell it. It's useless to me at this point. But anyways, Queensryche, The Warning. This has always been my favorite Queensryche studio album, and of course I love the EP also. This is one of those albums, there's not a wasted second on here. Every song is awesome, right from Warning, Deliverance, Take Hold of the Flame, Before the Storm, Child of Fire, Roads to Madness. It's just one of those albums I could put this on any day, anytime, and love it. But and Closer Than You Think, the next one, I'll tell you what, it's not Operation Mindcrime. That is my third favorite Queensryche album. My Closer Than You Think album, close to the debut, is Rage for Order, 1986. This one I almost could have put under the timing category, but this one came just at a really good time in my life. 86, awesome year for metal, hard rock, things like that. Thrash for sure. But man, what an album this is. This also, to me, not a wasted second. Not even the cover song of Gonna Get Close to You. I think that's one of the coolest cover songs I've ever heard. Walk in the Shadows, The Whisper, The Killing Words, Surgical Strike, awesome track. Screaming in Digital, just such a solid album. So that's Closer Than You Think. Let's move on to number 3, a little Canadian content. Growing up here in Canada, Much Music, Pepsi Power Hour is huge. These guys were always on Pepsi Power Hour. And their debut is still my favorite of their discography. Not a big discography either. They only have 5 studio albums, I think, altogether. Anyways, Killer Dwarfs. Bit of a glare on here. This is a newer reissue from Unidisc, but if you've seen this or heard this album, I highly recommend this one. Still my favorite from these guys. First discovered them, like I said, Much Music always was playing the video for Heavy Metal Breakdown. That track was also featured on, excuse me, a compilation called Metal for Breakfast. But there's tons of good tracks on here. Lead off track, Are You Ready? Can't Lose, Read Between the Lines. Outlaw of a Modern Man. Superb. Now, the runner-up and Closer Than You Think is their second album, which was kind of a, if you've watched any of the videos for Stand Tall or Keep the Spirit Alive. They're just, you know, do-it-yourself type of videos. This is, and they made it out to, they made their own album. They had the vinyl on a plunger, things like that. If you've seen that video for Keep the Spirit Alive. But, so, Closer Than You Think, here is Killer Dwarfs Stand Tall. This is out on Maze Records. This is one of those albums that is in a desperate need of a reissue of some sort. You can't find this anymore. I'm just lucky to even have it, but there is the second album for Killer Dwarfs. Third, I would say their fourth album, Dirty Weapons, would be definitely close to Stand Tall, but the debut still remains my favorite. What do we got left here? 3 left. Let's go to, you know, probably maybe an obvious one. You know, I'm a huge Dio fan, but still to this day, nothing beats this one. This is Holy Diver. But I'm sure you can guess the Closer Than You Think album on this one. This was actually, I discovered Dio before I really even dug into Black Sabbath. You know, as you know, I knew of Black Sabbath, but Dio for me came before Black Sabbath. And Ozzy Osbourne solo stuff came before Black Sabbath. I knew what band Ozzy came from, but never really got into it. But anyways, story for another day. But Holy Diver still holds up for me to this day, and an album that I spin, to be honest with you, at least once a year. I mean, I could just spin it up here anyways on autopilot or whatever, but Closer Than You Think, last in line, very close. Not as close as maybe Merciful Fate or the Queensryche albums, but definitely close. So there's last in line, which you know that one too. We can move right along here. Let's go with, let's shift gears to, again, if you've watched me, you know I'm a huge Accept fan. A huge Udo Dirkschneider fan, and of course Udo's band UDO. And again, I've done a full ranking on this one. I love the band. They're good for an album every couple of years, still going. Good to see that Peter Baltes is if you're familiar with Peter, he was one of the original members of Accept on bass. He's now in the UDO band with Udo Dirkschneider and gang. So that's pretty cool. But to this day, their debut is still my favorite. That is Animal House. So if you know the story behind this, Udo left Accept, you know, willingly or not, don't care. But this album was already written by all members of Accept, with Hoffman and Kaufman, Baltes, Dirkschneider, and Fisher. And basically given to Udo, go ahead, record it, and they went in a different direction, and you know that with the album Eat the Heat. But Animal House, still just an awesome album. Title track, Go Back to Hell, They Want War. One track that they actually do, Peter and most of the guys from Accept are on the song called Lay Down the Law, one of my favorites on this album. But the Closer Than You Think album is, what is this? This would be UDO's fourth album. Time Bomb. Love this artwork, and one of the heaviest, fastest albums that UDO has ever done. This one is definitely due for a vinyl reissue. AFM Records have been pumping out the UDO vinyl reissues. I think they did about 6 or 7 so far. But the first 4, Animal House, Mean Machine, Faceless World, and Time Bomb, should be up next, I'm hoping. But there you go. And last for today on this video, or part 1, a band that I loved, and this one also could have fell in the timing category, but it was more like Closer Than You Think, because I listened to both of these again, I'm like, damn, but this is still, the debut is still my favorite, and that is Skid Row. Yeah, just a little glammier than the one that comes after this. And the third album, Subhuman Race, I'm just going to throw it in here right now. That I don't hate that album one bit. I think it has some great tracks on it. One that I have learned to appreciate more over the years. I picked up a Skid Row box set there, whatever that was, a year ago. And out of that box set, I played some Subhuman Race more than I played these two, or this one so far that I've showed you. But yeah, there's just nothing weak on here. Big Gun, Sweet Little Sister, you know the hits. 18 in Life, I mean, Youth Gone Wild. What else we got? Yeah, 18 in Life, I mean, awesome, but quite heavy actually too. It's all like it's the heavier side of glam for sure. Finishing up with Midnight Tornado. Yeah. Here I Am. Great track. That's one of my favorite deep tracks. And the Closer Than You Think album is, yes, you guessed it, it is Slave to the Grind. But again, don't give up on Subhuman Race. If you haven't revisited it in a while, go back and check it out. But yeah, now this is the heaviest Skid Row album that I don't go past Subhuman Race. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I did check out and I purchased their newest album with Eric Gronwald singing. But honestly, I've since sold it. I just found I wasn't playing it. And more of a emotion or a nostalgia connection to these two albums and Subhuman Race, which I had all on either cassette or CD back in the day. But yeah, definitely Closer Than You Think. I mean, Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind. A few other of my favorites that stick out on here is Quicksand Jesus, great song. And actually Riot Act and Mud Kicker, Wasted Time. There's no wasted time on this album whatsoever. So definitely Closer Than You Think, but debut still edges it out. So that is it for part one. I'll try to, like I said, I'll keep part two and part three in the 15-minute range. We needed a couple of minutes to set this one up. So jump in the comments. If I miss something on this video, be patient. It might turn up on video number 2 or 3. And like I said, I got a nice history with these, so I can think back to when I picked these up and how many, I wouldn't know how many times I've listened to them, but it's definitely a shitload. But let me know in the comments, are you a fan of some of these bands, and are some of these debut albums your favorite? Hope you enjoyed this one. Until next time, stay heavy.